Hi, this is Bita Nazem Kelly from the Modern Persian Food podcast. In our episode celebrating Yalda, a Persian Winter Solstice tradition, we feature Anahita Tamaddon and her story of Fereydoon the Serpent King. Here she is reading the whole story herself.
Long ago, in the ancient kingdom of Iran, a baby boy was born. The boy's parents named him Fereydoon. He was healthy and strong, and his mother Faranakt hoped that the boy's strength would keep him safe. Like most Iranian parents of the time, she feared for her son's life. Fereydoon and his parents lived in Iran's capital city, which was then ruled by King Zahak. Zahak was no ordinary king. When he was a young boy, Zahak received a gift from Ahriman, the god of chaos and darkness. Two powerful snakes grew out of Zahak's shoulders and became the source of his dark magical powers. To feed his snakes, Zahak killed thousands of innocent people. Parents all over Iran lived in fear of the king's demon soldiers taking their children away. By the time Fereydoon was born, there was no longer laughter, music, or dancing. Iran became a dark place, shrouded in silence. As the years passed, Zahak's snakes grew bigger and hungrier. The king knew that killing innocent people was wrong, but he believed he had no choice. If he didn't feed his snakes, they would attack him. So, he decided it was destiny that brought him to where he was, and there was no fault of his own in any of his actions. Then one night, Zahak had a dream about a young boy who put him in chains. The king's astrologist named Zirak knew the Serpent King only looked powerful, but was full of fears and doubts. He told the king that the dream was part of a prophecy, and that it would come true, that one day a boy named Fereydoon would grow into a strong hero and put Zahak in chains. This boy, Zahak said, would become the next king of Iran. Nothing, Zirak said to the Serpent King, can change the future. Zahak was terrified and tried to change the course of his destiny. His demon soldiers spread throughout Iran, searching for baby boys named Fereydoon. When they came to take Fereydoon away, his father, Atin, told his wife to run and hide. He was killed defending his family. For some time, Faranakt stayed with different families, but eventually it became too dangerous. After weeks of wandering in the woods, Faranakt brought Fereydoon to Alborz mountains, so that no man or serpent would ever find them. Years passed, and Fereydoon grew into a strong young man. He was lonely living in the mountains and wanted to prove himself. That is why when Fereydoon turned 16 years old and Faranakt told him how they came to live in the mountains, Fereydoon was thrilled. "I am going to kill this ugly old snake. I'm going to avenge my father and be the best king Iran had ever seen," Fereydoon exclaimed. "It is my destiny." "Zahak believes in destiny too, my son," Faranakt said. "But it is his weakness and not his strength." "What do you mean?" Fereydoon asked. "Don't you believe in destiny, Madar?" "I believe in surrounding yourself with trustworthy people and relying on your strength more than on anything else. You are so inexperienced, so young." "I'm leaving tomorrow morning and you can't stop me. I'm going to fight Zahak." "I'm not trying to stop you," Faranakt sighed, "but you have to learn a lot before facing the Serpent King. Find the blacksmith named Kaveh. He has raised a great army to defeat Zahak, and he's the only one I trust. Kaveh will make sure you're ready for this battle. Fereydoon hardly listened to his mother. He was offended that she didn't believe in his destiny. In his mind, Fereydoon was already receiving praise and recognition from people all over Iran for defeating the Serpent King. The next morning, Faranak prepared Fereydoon's favorite sweet and buttery cookie, kuluche, for him to eat on the road. "You worry too much, Madar. Everything will be fine," Fereydoon said, and was on his way. On the third day of his journey, Fereydoon found Kaveh's camp by a beautiful blue lake. Kaveh introduced him to his army of thousands of soldiers, noblemen, and peasants, who were all training for the battle against Zahak's army. Everyone was happy to see Fereydoon. He joined a group of young boys training to become warriors. Until then, Fereydoon was sure nothing could go wrong. But things didn't go the way he had imagined. The other boys had been training for years. Compared to them, Fereydoon was clumsy and slow. In the weeks that followed, Fereydoon kept losing one fight after another. Things got worse when he began to have nightmares. In those nightmares, Fereydoon would walk in the dark and hear a voice that sounded like a hissing snake. "The Serpent King has killed millions," the voice whispered. "Who do you think you are to challenge him? Go back to your mountains, little frog." Fereydoon would wake up from these nightmares with his heart beating fast and hard. One evening, after military exercises, Fereydoon was frustrated and anxious after losing yet another sword fight. When Kaveh saw how upset he was, he asked the boy to go for a walk with him around the lake. "Do you believe in destiny?" Fereydoon asked Kaveh as soon as they were alone. "I believe in finding your strength and working on your weaknesses." "But I don't have any strengths. I'm losing every sword fight." "It takes time and practice before you can be good at something. Today you may not be good at wielding your sword, but you must be good at something else. Have you tried any weapons other than the sword?" No." "Try it. And when you do, don't think about destiny. Just have fun with it," Kaveh said with a warm smile. The next day, Fereydoon tried daggers, dirks, and short spears. He discovered that he was much better at fighting with daggers than with swords. Then he grabbed a mace. This weapon was too heavy for the other young warriors. Even Kaveh had a hard time lifting it. Yet to Fereydoon it felt like a feather. When he swung it around his head and hit a large rock, the rock shattered and broke into thousands of pieces. Everyone stopped training and looked at Fereydoon as if they had just seen him for the first time. "This is it!" Kaveh laughed with joy and patted Fereydoon on the shoulder. "You have found your weapon." For the next 3 months, Fereydoon practiced day and night. He made friends among the other boys. He grew stronger every day and stopped having nightmares. Now he thought a lot less about his destiny and focused much more on perfecting his skills. Finally, one day Kaveh gathered his army. "It is time. You are ready. Let's free Iran from the Serpent King." Fereydoon and his friends mounted their horses, and the army began its 7-day and 7-night journey across Iran to Zahak's capital. Some days the army crossed fields of tulips and gardens full of apple and lemon trees. Other days it traveled through forests, faced snowstorms, and slept on the ground while wolves howled nearby. Together they crossed dangerous rivers and rested by serene lakes. But wherever Fereydoon and his newfound friends camped, they gathered around fires at night to keep their bodies warm and their spirits up. As the army approached the capital city, many citizens came out to welcome Kaveh and quickly joined his army. When the army passed through the gates of the capital, thousands of demon soldiers flew down from the roofs of the buildings. The two armies clashed in battle. The narrow streets of the city became cluttered with swords and arrows, and a cloud of dust blocked the sun. Fereydoon urged his horse toward Zahak's palace. The palace seemed abandoned. When Fereydoon walked through the main entrance, he could not help but admire the beauty of its painted ceilings and columns. The main hall was dark and empty. Only the rubies and emeralds of Zahak's throne glittered in the dark. Fereydoon reminded himself that he could not trust his eyes. This palace belonged to Zahak, and he was the master of black magic. Where is he? Fereydoon wondered. Then he heard a distant hissing sound. It was the sound of Zahak's snakes, followed by a familiar voice. "Do you think you can defeat me, little frog?" Zahak's laughter echoed across the palace. A deep chill went down Fereydoon's back, but he didn't step back. "I may not be as strong as the heroes of the past," Fereydoon said, "and you may kill me today like you killed my father. But another boy and then another will come to take my place until one of us takes you down for all the lives you have sacrificed to feed your snakes." At that moment, Zahak jumped out of the shadows and slammed Fereydoon into the wall. His two gray snakes hissed as they tried to bite Fereydoon's neck. Fereydoon grabbed Zahak by the waist, raised him above his head, and threw him down the hall. As soon as the king hit the floor, Zahak began to grow. Within seconds, he had turned into a creature 10 times larger and stronger than Fereydoon. The boy hid behind a wall. "You should have gone back to your mountains when you could, little frog," Zahak hissed. "And miss out on all this fun?" Fereydoon shouted back. He grabbed his mace and took a deep breath. "Come and get me, you silly old snake. Let me show you what little frogs can do." He jumped out, swung his mace, and hit Zahak on the head. The Serpent King fell on the ground, shaking, and Fereydoon put his chains around him. That very night, Fereydoon took Zahak to Mount Damavand, the highest peak in Iran. There, by a narrow cave that seemed to have no end, he nailed his chain to the cave wall. Zahak cried, "It was not my fault. It was destiny. All of this was decided by fate. On the day I was born, please don't leave me here alone. The snakes will attack me if I don't feed them." For a moment, Fereydoon felt pity. He imagined that in times past, Zahak too was just a young boy who dreamed of greatness. "Don't blame your fate, Zahak. It was your choice to kill thousands of people, and you have to face what you have become," Fereydoon said. He shut the cave entrance with a boulder and headed back to the city. For the next 3 days, Iran celebrated the defeat of the Serpent King with a buzzing festival. Musicians, dancers, and singers came out on the streets of the capital to celebrate Iran's freedom. Cooks and bakers gave away food to the poor, and poets wrote new poems about Kaveh, Fereydoon, and the army that defeated Zahak. Fereydoon was only 16 years old and knew nothing about how to rule a country, but the people of Iran believed in destiny, and so they chose Fereydoon to be their next king. Kaveh assured Fereydoon that he would be there to help. Fereydoon decided to live among the people and built a house in the middle of the city, next to Kaveh's house. He brought his mother to live with him, and she planted a beautiful garden with orange and jasmine in the backyard. As the years went by, Fereydoon relied on the people he trusted and used his strength to achieve his goals. He also worked on his weaknesses. Many believed that what happened to Fereydoon was fate, but Fereydoon knew only one thing for certain. Anyone can be a hero if they work on their strengths and take responsibility for their choices. And that was the lesson Fereydoon taught his children and grandchildren.